Hey everybody, welcome to How the Sausage is Made with Chris Cosentino, where I talk with chefs, restaurateurs, athletes, philanthropists, and pretty much anybody that inspires me. We look below the surface, behind the curtain, and dig deep into how these people got to where they are today. Wins, losses, and everything in between. All right, everybody, this one's going to be fun. I feel very fortunate to have my good friend Michael Voltaggio here joining us today. We met many, many years ago, and if I recall correctly, it was at Aspen Food and Wine, and we were all cooking at Jose's party, correct?
That is accurate, yes, chef.
It was a very funny day. For sure, it was a very funny day. But as the years have gone on, Michael and I have become better and better friends, and we've gotten to hang out and cook together. And, you're in trouble when you're driving to LA and your son's having private conversations with Michael when we're on the way down.
I'm a good influence.
Good influence.
On the youth.
Hey, Dad, I just talked to Uncle Mike and we're going to the restaurant tonight. I'll never forget that because you're texting me going, is your son, what's going on? Where is your kid?
Are you guys together? He's making reservations on his own. Like, is everything okay? But what was my favorite part about that story in our intro, though, for me was, having an opportunity to go to that event, be with you and Jose Andres and a lot of my heroes, people that I grew up like reading about, respecting. Like, to me, when I got to meet you the first time, I was like super excited about that. I'd known everything about you prior to meeting you, which is weird. It makes me sound like a stalker, but like for me as a young chef coming up and all that sort of stuff, you have your sort of the people that you hope to meet someday. And you were one of those people. And the fact that we got to be friends after that was an incredible experience for me.
That means a lot. Thank you.
For sure.
Just recognize that your screen, it comes up as Brian's brother.
It's true. I am Brian's brother.
I know, but I was like, I'm thinking to myself, did I put that on this?
You want to know what's funny is I don't own a computer. I'm talking to you on my iPad, which is a bigger version of my phone. And when I set that as my name on like a Zoom meeting or whatever this platform is many years ago or whenever, I don't know how to change it. So I set it as Brian's brother and I don't know how to rename myself as something else. So that is the extent of my technological skill.
That is genius.
Well, so I am forever Brian's brother.
What's pretty crazy about that, let's just think about technological skill or technical skills, right? I want to talk about like how you started because a lot of folks out there know you from when you just stormed on the scene on television. I mean, you had been cooking for a hell of a long time before that, but you jumped into the public eye on Top Chef. I remember it was, brother versus brother and everybody was going crazy. But I know a bit about the world before that. So I think it's really important that you kind of share how you got to that point because your technical skills didn't happen overnight. I mean, you humped it and you humped it the hard way.
Well, yeah, the information that I think I sort of distributed through Top Chef wasn't information that at that time was readily available to everyone. And so the fact that like, I wasn't like letting the secrets out. For me, it was, this is the food that I've been cooking for the past 10 years. I mean, having done my apprenticeship at the Greenbrier Hotel, which is where I got a very solid sort of classical foundation to build this sort of house on top of. And then from there, going to work with Jose Andres and Charlie Palmer and like in the off time going and staging, which used to be kind of legal, at all the restaurants that I wanted to soak information up from, like going to Yountville and working for free at the French Laundry for a little over a month, and then going to Chicago and like anyone that would let me in their kitchen to sort of learn and absorb. I wanted to go do. And at that time, I had already had 2 children too. So I couldn't, if it was up to me, I'd forever be a line cook. I mean, that's always been my favorite job. I'm a really good line cook. And I find it odd that that's not a skill set that a lot of chefs possess today. And for me, I had to start taking positions that would afford me the ability to take care of my family, but at the same time, I needed to continue to learn. And so for a lot of years, I was able to put my head down and cook, and I'm still doing that. And I think that that's the part sort of pre-television that a lot of people just don't know about me. I mean, I had gotten.
So let's start at the Greenbrier, right? Because I want to start with this foundation because I know of the Greenbrier, right? I know a couple other folks that came through the Greenbrier as well. But that's a rarity to know folks that have gone through the Greenbrier system. It's a really tough, regimented system there. So I want you to talk about that a little bit because I don't think anybody has an idea of how hard that is there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an apprenticeship program. It's been around for a little over 50 years, 60 plus years now. At the time, I couldn't really afford to pay for culinary school. I didn't have the money or the resources to be able to just go move to another city and do that. So the next best thing was for me to apply for this. I drove down there to audition for it on Christmas Eve or the night before Christmas. They called me. They were like, "Hey, do you want to come audition for this?" I'm like, "Yeah." They were like, "When are you available?" I'm like, "Tomorrow." They're like, "That's the weekend of Christmas or whatever it is." And I'm like, "I'll be there." I drove from Maryland to there, took 4 hours. I worked the entire service until about midnight. And then I got back in my car and drove back home 4 hours to Maryland for Christmas. And I just sort of sat on my hands and waited until they called me. And I was 19 years old at the time. And so here I was ready. I was already living on my own. I mean, I moved out of my house when I was 16 years old. I was already paying rent while I was in high school. So I've been cooking already for a few years, but at country clubs and Holiday Inns and places that, wouldn't necessarily compare to what I'm doing now, but at least I got to learn the work ethic part. And I was able to apply that to the Greenbrier. But what was interesting was I thought I knew a lot going to the Greenbrier. And when I got there, I'd never really been exposed to any form of real cooking. And to realize real fast that I didn't know shit made me feel that much more motivated to want to leave there as one of the best people that had ever shown up there. So I put my head down and made that my goal.
And can you tell a little bit about what that program is?
Yeah, so you sort of enter into, it's a paid apprenticeship when I did it. You rotate through every aspect of the kitchen. You have a soups and stocks rotation. You have a sauce rotation. You have a butchery rotation, a pastry rotation, a vegetable and garde manger rotation. And it's sort of like real-time culinary school, but with volume. So instead of learning how to tourne like one potato, you have to tourne 10,000 of them, because you need it for service. And so everything that we did was in such large scale that you were forced to learn the repetition and like build that muscle memory. And like in the butcher shop, because this resort, now you got to understand, it's 3 or 4 hours in the mountains from any direction. So the idea of just getting something local delivered that's ready to go the way you need it wasn't really available when they started this program. So they had to figure out, as this luxury resort, how to do everything in-house themselves. And so for me, my education was going through that, baking bread, meat from bigger sort of parts and like just all of it, I guess, the right way, the old French way. It was like an old French apprenticeship program in the United States.
And I mean, from what I've known or what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was the presidential vacation location. And as we all know, a few years ago, they let the cat out of the bag that there was a full bunker system under it.
Yeah, Eisenhower times, he had built an entire bunker that could hold the entire House and Senate in one location. God forbid anything catastrophic were to happen. They were set up for it. But it became obsolete because the media got wind of it and all that sort of stuff. But to have, again, that piece of history right there and those type of, that type of sort of clientele. I had never been in a building with luxury like that in my life until I started working in one. And then I realized in that moment, like, I want to get to a level in my life where I get to be a guest at a place like this. And, as much as we all talk about how the industry brought us in and took care of us, I also looked at it as a thing of motivation. Like, yes, I love taking care of people. Like, I have this innate desire. I'm in this for the right reasons to like take care of people. And I think that came from the fact that the industry took care of me. But I also selfishly wanted to be one of those people. And so I saw this as an opportunity to have a better life, have a different experience in life than maybe what I had before that.
It's so interesting when you say it like that, because I mean, we've all had our starts, right? Like, we've all started somewhere. I started in the dish pit, and my first big break was IHOP, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think it teaches you what hard work is, what respect is for the craft. And I think that particular place that you started is historical when it comes to culinary education. Like, it goes into, you have the culinary schools, and then there's Greenbrier. It's part of that culinary school echelon of high-powered education, and it's really cool when you find some folks that have successfully run through that program.
But I also think when you look at that time, back in 1998, I guess, when I was going to do that, it was still just a trade profession. I mean, I told my father that I was going to go do this thing, and he's like, yeah, I thought you'd end up in the food service industry. Like, it was like a diss, you know what I mean? Like, you're not like ready, you weren't going to become much more than that. And I'm like, now fast forward to today's times, it's like people get into this industry no different than like if they're getting into like music or art or fashion or like whatever it is. It's now become this creative art that has exposure. And so the motivation is a lot different.
I agree. I mean, I think about, it's the same thing. I got the same conversation. I was voted most likely to end up in prison. I had, it was either military, prison, or be a cook. And, it's interesting when you see the trajectory, because there wasn't this television world. It was Julia Childs and Jacques Pepin, Emeril, and Yan Can Cook, right? Or the Frugal Gourmet. Those were the food shows that we grew up with. And it really, I remember when Food Network started on the scene. I mean, even when I started in my first job in DC, food arts was the cool thing, and art culinaire. Those were the biggest things you knew about, and James Beard. And that was it.
Yeah. I mean, your social media was getting that art culinaire book every sort of quarter when it came out, the magazine, the hardbound, sort of beautiful thing. Excuse me.
And that was the dream, right? Like, it's like, oh man, someday I'm going to get an art culinaire piece.
Yeah, and there wasn't any social media. Like, there was no instant. I mean, you got to imagine how long it took to print that after they shot it, like took the photos, edited it, put it together. Like, there was nothing instant. And so, and I miss everything moving at that pace, because the opportunity for discovery was something that like I looked forward to, and also buying cookbooks. Like, I have hundreds, thousands maybe of cookbooks, and that used to be, other than going and staging or trading notebooks with your buddies, you bought books, and the only way you got the information was like that. And so now,
or a fax, a facsimile of, can you fax me a copy of your menu, please? You would call restaurants.
Yeah, I want to see what you guys are up to today. Yeah.
And this was my favorite. It's like, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm going to book a party at this restaurant, and you'd call them and you'd have them fax you the menu.
Yeah.
I want to look at what's on the menu so you could see what the fuck was going on.
I mean, I couldn't afford to go eat there.
No.
It's like, but what's interesting today is like, the information's available so fast that you don't have to go through what we went through to get it. And I think that that's sort of, it's great and it's not so great in the sense that like the work ethic part sort of disappeared when the information was that accessible. And so now you can just learn it by opening up your phone or your whatever device you have, and you can get that information like that. I mean, there's Granda and there's like all these apps that like distribute this information, which I think is like, I use it, but like I can look at one of those things and read read over it real quick and be able to produce whatever it is, where now people are just going through step by step, and that's their real life work experience. So they're just getting the information sort of without having to show up and get yelled at and work for like really crappy wages and live on floors in New York and the shit that we did. Like, it's not necessary now.
It's not necessary. I do also think there's a difference in the form of learning this way. I think we had to start technically with a foundation, the traditional foundation of culinary, and then build upon it. And I think there's a lot of, with this constant push of information that's being put out there, like you said, there's the Grandas and there's all these, recipes being done online and constant push of information, that a lot of the technical steps are being missed. Like the proper technique is being missed, and it's skipping over some of those things to just learn the new, not learn the basis for which that was built upon. And those are the
there's little things too. Like if a recipe says, sear it for 3 minutes, there's so many variables in that sentence. Like, how high is your heat? What type of stove are you using? What type of pan are you using? What kind of fat are you using when you use, like, there's so many things other than those 3 minutes that can impact and affect the recipe. And that's what you're saying. Like, those are the parts that you learn from repetition. Back to the Greenbrier, we got assigned one dish a night, and we had a scoreboard in front of us. And we watched that scoreboard all night long, and it counted how many of your dish you needed to be preparing for service. And I remember one night I had a potato crusted snapper, and it was like one of the signature dishes on the menu, with a lobster American sauce, oyster mushrooms, and cream spinach. Shoestring potatoes packed in clarified butter on top of the fish, cooked in cast iron pans in clarified butter throughout the night. One night I sold like 290 of those. It was on the scoreboard. So imagine my station making 290 of one dish. Some restaurants only do that many covers. I had to become a good line cook.
That is like, and that's Like, okay, Americane sauce, classic, right? Lobster Americane is one of my favorites, right? Slowly vanishing off the table, right? You rarely see these things, and
Yeah,
it's
because now every single dish tastes the same. Like the flavor profiles that everyone's looking for. And I was just talking about this the other day because I love classic French cooking. Pristine, clean, perfect cooking where you take ingredients and make them taste more like themselves. Now everything has to have heat, crunch, acid, fish sauce, chopped herbs, and like that's the yeah. And
microgreens,
then those are
25
like
placements.
those are the things that like it needs that like when you watch even the stuff that we do, you know, when we're judging food on TV or these competitions and stuff, it's like the same adjectives get used over and over again, and we forget like just a perfectly roasted piece of chicken with a nice chicken jus with a little hint of thyme on the back of your palate, and like that's good to me, you know.
Yep.
Why does everything is starting to taste really the same? I mean, we're training people to expect the exact same flavor profiles from every cuisine.
I'm so glad you said this, Michael, because this is something that I have been having conversations about, but you are the perfect person to have this conversation with because I think there's a world of people trying to fit this Michelin vision in non-Michelin settings,
Yeah.
which is creating the identical similarity of food across all platforms. You have the same ingredients that are coming into the same season, which is normal. Everybody has the same ingredients. We all do in every, you know, granted, maybe Michigan has different ingredients than we do right now, right, in California. But when you start to see this mindset of Michelin, 3 Michelin star food in a fast paced casual restaurant, it doesn't compute, right? That's why the French created the brasserie, right? Or the bistro, because they're busy and they're fast and it's meant to be delicious, wholesome, and a big hug, right? And that is their version of casual. And then there's Michelin 1, 2, and 3. And as time has gone on, everybody's trying to create Michelin 1, 2, and 3 in the casual setting, which is creating identical food across all platforms.
Well, I also feel like what's happening is that anything that sells food and or beverage is being compared apples to apples. So there are so many different genres as you look at the culinary arts or you look at food and beverage and hospitality, and like street food, which has become super popular, to me is and can be as delicious as a 3-star Michelin meal. But I don't necessarily think they're compared. I think about like music, you know, classical piano is different than hip hop or rock and roll. And so there's an opportunity to sort of appreciate the nuance of each different genre, but also they don't necessarily compare them head to head because it's very different. And when you look at food now, it's sort of shifted from, well, it doesn't have to be 3-star Michelin to be good. No one was ever saying that, but I think what it did was it gave us an opportunity to celebrate and appreciate the food that doesn't cost as much money and give it the recognition that it does deserve, to say it doesn't have to be expensive to be good. And I think that that's something incredible and profound that's happening in our industry right now. But what it's done a little bit, I think, is sort of brought the value out of that Michelin experience, that top thing that you can sort of hope to go experience. And that's what it was meant for. When you read what the 1-star, 2-star, 3-star meant, like 3-star meant this place is worth a journey to go to. Like this isn't a Monday through Friday thing that you're going to go to after work. This is something you're going to go, like you're planning a trip to Italy one day or Japan or wherever your bucket list trip of life is. These restaurants, I think, fit into that category as well. But for me, I'm excited about all of it. And I think to be somebody that's truly passionate about this industry, have to be as well. You know, inspiration should be shared, but expectations shouldn't be demanded from everyone in the same way.
I think that's actually the best way of saying it right there. That is a really, really great way of saying it, Michael. So you're done with the Greenbrier. How long were you at the Greenbrier for?
I did 3 years there.
And
And
where
then
did
in the
that
winter time, I would go work. Like I'd go work in New York in the winter. And then after my first daughter was born, I needed money. So I worked in a local, the butcher at the Greenbrier took a month off of work every year and set up a deer processing butchery at his house. And so he built a walk-in refrigerator, and I needed cash. I would go wear coveralls and gloves, and I would butcher deer in his mountain sort of property. As people would drop them off, I would just stand there in the freezing cold and cut deer. Like our lunch would be like a pot of beans and some cornbread, and we would use like the deer carcasses as like a table to like eat off of. Like, but I needed that like $10 or $11 an hour. Like I needed that money to survive. And then from there, I went down to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Naples, Florida. There was a certified master chef there, Lawrence McFadden, who ironically enough had also gone through the Greenbrier and was at the time a very sort of demanding person in the industry as it related to like excellence. And so I needed that. I knew of him in that regard. And so I went to spend time with him because they had a similar setup. They had a couple fine dining restaurants. They had banquets. They had a steakhouse. They had a poolside cafe, and it was luxury. Again, having a child, I knew I needed a paycheck, but I also needed to continue to learn. So luxury hotels at that time made the most sense for me because I could rotate through the whole building and learn every aspect of multiple different types of restaurants without leaving the same building. And so, and I could get a salary. And I think at that time I was making, I want to say it was like $35,000 or $36,000 a year. And I was working literally 100 hours a week.
And that's interesting you say that too, because the hotels at that time were the ones that had the full pastry department that was laminating dough in-house. They weren't buying pre-laminated dough, so they were making laminated dough from scratch. You were getting to see all of those things like a traditional French Michelin restaurant that built everything from scratch.
Well, we were also cooking sous vide because the chef that I was working under, Arnaud Bertelier, had come through Ducasse and all of that and was the dining room chef, like the fine dining chef of the hotel. And I got to go be his sous chef. And so we were buying circulators from Ulabo, which now has a whole culinary line. We were calling them at the time, they were only a medical equipment manufacturer. And I remember ordering a circulator and saying, no, we're using this for cooking. We're vacuum packing food and putting them into a water bath and using your machine to circulate the water to cook the food that's inside these bags. And they were just like, whatever, okay, fine. It's $1,200. Like, just pay us and we'll send you one. And we were doing this in 2001, 23 years ago. And we were lying about it. Like, we didn't tell anyone because we thought we would get in trouble. Like, we couldn't, like, if we wrote under vacuum, people thought we were sending them out a dish of food that had a vacuum cleaner sitting on top of it. Like, they didn't get what we were doing at the time. And it was Arnaud who really, and again, this is somebody now who never chased the spotlight or became a famous chef or anything like that. But to this day, and I'm sure we all have one of these, is one of the best cooks I've ever worked with. And he just decided that his family was going to be his priority and he was going to eventually have a career where he could spend time with them. And I think that that's super admirable too.
It's so interesting you talk about at that time in sous vide, because that was before Cuisine Solutions. Mm-hmm. And at that time, the Europeans were cooking in sous vide because there was so many people coming to Europe to stage, and it was a guarantee for them to get the food cooked properly.
Yeah, well, and there was a class that was being taught in France every year, and so Arnaud would go back home and take that class and then bring that information back. And he was one of a few people, I would say, in the U.S. at the time that was going and getting that information from the source.
It's so amazing to think like how something was created to protect the integrity of the cuisine because of unskilled hands working with it.
Yeah. I mean, They started in the late 70s. They were cooking foie gras and stuff that way. And that information, like, we were just learning what the word brunoise meant. You know what I mean? We're like, they're like, wait, what do these American chefs know how to make souffles? When did that happen? Like,
yeah. We thought
somebody
they just
stopped letting the secrets out. Yeah. This is like treason.
So now you're down in Florida. What is that next jump from there?
So from there, I worked my way up to fine dining chef because after 9/11, Arnaud, his visa, he didn't have a visa at the time, and that was our industry, very much like the pandemic, took a huge hit at that time.
Yeah.
So I was now super young and given this responsibility of being the chef of the Five Diamond restaurant, like the signature French fine dining restaurant, only having the experience that I've worked to get up to this point. And so now I have this huge responsibility. And I definitely felt like I was guilty of imposter syndrome or whatever it is. Like I felt like I didn't have the job that I deserved to have, but I needed to do a good job at it, at least pretend like I knew what I was doing. And that's when I started to go stage at places like, I ended up competing against one of the sous at the French Laundry, Devin Nell, in an olive oil competition when we were both like in our early 20s. And I stayed in touch with him, and I just asked after that, like, hey, can I come hang out with you guys for a month in Yountville? And again, the reason why I was doing all this stuff, because as much as I wanted to go work at these places, I now have a child, and at this point, two children. I couldn't afford it. I needed to be able to go do that for myself. Like I needed that information because that's where I wanted to go. I had seen the French Laundry cookbook. I owned it. Like we were all copying shit out of it at the time. Like it was one of the most beautiful pieces of information that I had ever gotten in my hands. And I needed to go see where it came from. So I did that. And when I got back, I was like, wow, I really want to go to Northern California. And that's when I got the opportunity to go take over Dry Creek Kitchen and work for Charlie Palmer in Healdsburg. And that's where I really put my head down and got to like, Charlie really gave me the opportunity to transform this restaurant into my own sort of place to cook. And then we got a Michelin star. And so from there, I was like, okay, this is, I met Rene Redzepi there. He'd come in for lunch one day because the sommelier in the restaurant was a friend of his from back in Copenhagen. And so to then start to like build these relationships, that was in 2005 or 2005.
What year was that you, because it's really funny. I'm going to tell you something funny. I interviewed for that job at Dry Creek Kitchen, right?
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. This was like 2004, I think, is when I officially took the position. And then Michael Bauer had given us a 3.5 out of 4-star review, which at the time, Daniel Hum was at Campton Place. Yep. And him and I both sort of were at the same time getting some pretty like decent recognition from the San Francisco Chronicle. And I remember going down and eating at Campton Place, walking into Campton Place to meet Daniel. And he was like making club sandwiches over here and like caviar dishes over here. And like, it was the same mentality of like, oh, I'm a chef in a hotel, but I'm trying to like get all these experiences and learn all these different aspects of everything. And then he sort of shot into what we know of him today as one of the most iconic, influential people in our industry. And so again, to have met and like interacted and hung out and like, at the time with these people that were going to become giants was pretty awesome. And like not knowing that that's what would happen, it was cool. Like it was just, for me, it was like, again, this was all before Top Chef. Like this was what I was doing before that. And to then, I'm sure we're going to get there, but that was like a pivotal shift in my career when I decided, because no one knew who I was. Like there wasn't
you were the man behind the men. You were the man behind the men. You were quiet.
But also like a review from the Chronicle wasn't really national news, or it was a notch to me at the time, and to the restaurant and to Charlie's efforts and to the town of Healdsburg. But it certainly wasn't the type of platform that Top Chef was or whatever.
No, and like you said, those were printed. They weren't all online. I remember we would wait for a review. You'd wait the night before. You'd head over to the Chronicle building and wait for them to stick it in the newspaper box outside. And you'd put in 25 cents and grab the whole stack and hope to God it was a good review. And it wouldn't get farther than, NorCal. And maybe it would hit down, maybe it would get down to LA and stuff. But you would hope that media would grab it back east and start to be like, hey, check this out. But it wasn't the media storm it was now. And
then the Michelin Guide came to the Bay Area right around that time, or came back. Was it they came to or came back? I can't remember if that was.
I think this was the first time they came. There was a little bit in between where they left and then came back. Yeah.
And then I think in the 2006 Guide, that's when Dry Creek got their star, and I had at that time started transitioning back east because the Greenbrier had called and they were like, we're going to build a restaurant and we want you to come back and be the chef of it. And so I actually went back to White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, after all of this to open up this restaurant that had this insane budget. And they were like, we're going to send you to Spain. You're going to go see where your plates are being made and blah, blah, blah. And so then I started to go stage at everywhere I could. And then I went back to the Greenbrier, but they only ran this restaurant for like one season. And then from there, I got a call from Jose Andres' team. And they were like, hey, we're opening this restaurant in Los Angeles. Would you be interested in coming and cooking for Jose and trying out for a position? And so I thought I was just trying out for the job of just running what was then going to be called Sam, this little fine dining thing that was going to be in the back of the bazaar. And when I went to cook for Jose, he offered me the executive chef position of the entire bazaar, which I had never done anything like that. But the fact that I got to go drive down, meet Chef Jose Andres at the time, and just cook him lunch, and for him to not know me from anything else other than that thing that I prepared for him, to then get an opportunity like that, which to me was really something that was going to catapult me into success, because what I was exposed to working with Jose was like boot camp of information that it impacted. But what was funny about it was like having such a classic foundation, like learning how to make sauces traditionally, how to do all these things, to then be in like this wonderland of Willy Wonka-ness with this person who, you know, one thing I say about Jose is one of the few people that will dream something the night before and then come the next day, bring his dream to life. Like, this is how his brain worked. And to have that experience with him, that's really where things started to shift for me into like, wait, I can have a really great career at this. Like, I have opportunities now. And with Charlie, it was similar. Charlie taught me like how to be a responsible, like how to be an owner, how to run a kitchen, how to be a chef for chefs. Like Charlie, like one day the ice machine broke and he came in and he's like, why is there no ice in the ice machine? I'm like, chef, it's been broken for 3 days. I've been calling the company. Charlie grabs a screwdriver and like does a couple of tinkerings and all of a sudden the machine's full of ice. And I'm like, that's why Charlie Palmer is Charlie Palmer. You know what I mean? Like he's going to make it happen no matter what. And not to mention the food was delicious, and like the team, the camaraderie that he built in his organization at the time, you had, you know, Dante Bocuzzi and my brother and Jerry Hayden and all these people were sort of in that circle, and like Claudia and like everyone that was around was just like doing these amazing things, to then be thrown to Jose and get a completely different version of that. Was awesome. Like, it was incredible, because I remember, I mean, at the time, a lot of Jose's immediate infrastructure, a lot of that came from Spain. And so you had Ruben Garcia and then Katsuya Fukushima, who obviously is Japanese, but he like was part of this. Like, there was at the time, it was Jose and then Ruben and Katsuya, and they were all like creatively in this bubble doing these amazing things, and Minibar was like thriving. And I got to go and experience like all of them and all of that. And then, you know, I mean, everyone knows Jose's story. I don't need to tell that, but like to be a part of the sort of earlier stages of, I was right there when he like, and like to be able to see that and contribute a very small part to that. And what we see in him today was, it was pretty amazing. He's just somebody that I'll look up to for the rest of my life. And then from there, Marcel was the sous chef.
To kind of like tidbit here, I remember having dinner with Tatiana at the bazaar when you were the chef there. It was our anniversary. We came in and I remember you showing us around. I remember you showing us all. I mean, it was walking the dessert buffet after your meal to pick your choices, right? To like go. It was one of those experiences that I don't think, if you hadn't experienced it when Michael was there, I don't think you really understand what it was like. It was whimsical, fun. It was like a carnival. It was in the best of ways, right? It was all the things that you wanted that happened magically in one location. And I remember looking at you and going, how the fuck do you do all of this? I remember you and I having this conversation, and you're like showing me how all these pieces are moving. And it's like, I was in a standalone restaurant and I'm watching this monster of a space with all these cooks and all this delicious food coming out. And I couldn't wrap my brain around it, especially with the Jose imagination train, which, as you and I know, the Jose imagination train goes 1,000 miles an hour. And like you said, if it's in his brain the night before, it's going to happen the next day. Whether you want it to or not, you're going to have to figure it out.
But if you look at like what Jose's whole thing has been about today, it's like feeding people. You know, his agenda is really quite simple. He wants to feed people because as a chef, that's his responsibility. And whether it's through World Central Kitchen or the restaurants, the Bazaar to me at the time was the first restaurant at that scale that was making that type of food accessible to everyone. So you think about it, you didn't have to go to a 2 or 3 star Michelin restaurant to get these techniques and to learn about and see these things. And so now you're taking things that were done in restaurants for like 50 to 100 people a night and serving them to 500 people a night. In some cases, the dishes that were being served were from Minibar, which did 12 covers a night, the original one in DC. And I remember talking to Jose and being like, how do we do this for 500 people? And he goes, it's the same job. We'll just build a bigger kitchen and have more cooks. And he was able to like see that vision through. And so for me, it was about, at that time, I learned like in this business, anything is possible if you just work hard. And he proved that with that concept. And then from there, Marcel was my sous chef in your own. So at the Bazaar, and he had come off of Top Chef, and there was a lot of sort of eyes on him at the time. And I remember just kind of joking around with him at work because he was getting recognized by everyone. And we had an open kitchen. Marcel was like, I was like, well, I could, what's so great about Top Chef? And he's like, well, why don't you do it then? And I'm like, I will, and I'll go win that thing. And somehow we got connected through to the producers, and I sent in my audition tape and all that. And like, they called me back and they were just like, hey, we'd love for you to be on the show, or come meet us to consider you for the show. By the way, you have a brother. We just realized, can we have his phone number? And that's how all that ended up happening.
So they basically set it up to have brothers against.
It wasn't a setup. It was more like we both, because back then, and I don't know how it works now, but you had to submit a casting tape. So they were basically just asking us both at the time to submit our casting tapes. We still, it wasn't like I applied. I came out of the woodworks and like applied. But then after that happened, then Brian, like it sort of was realized that I had a brother, and it was like, well, maybe both of you should apply. And like, and come to find out, we ended up, everyone knows what happened after that, but we ended up in the same place competing against each other.
So what was that like? I mean, you guys are your siblings, right? And let's put this out there too. Your sister is a pastry chef.
She's like, I don't need to do this anymore. You guys got this under control.
But the point, the three of you are hospitality professionals.
Yeah.
You are all culinarians. So to have you and your brother, and I remember watching the whole thing, right? What was that like being there, not only competing against your brother, but being there with your brother? Because I'm sure it took some of the edge off having your brother there.
I mean, it was hard because I wasn't as mature, I'll say it, as I am now. I mean, I was 30. I should have been pretty grown up by that point. But again, I had a lot of insecurities back then. I still have a lot of insecurities. We all do. But like, I knew that he was the person that I had to beat because I know how good he is. Brian is a better cook than I am. And I don't think I've ever said that out loud, like in a situation like this. My brother is a better cook than I am. What I don't want to say better at, but different is my creative process is different than his. And I think that's because of the exposure that I've had real time, like not just from social, like to your point, the muscle memory of being able to do a different type of cooking. But my brother, as far as a technician is concerned, is one of the best I've ever seen. He knows how to do everything. And if he doesn't, he can learn it in like a matter of minutes. And so I knew that he was my biggest threat on Top Chef. What I didn't realize emotionally, how much of a toll that was going to take on us after the fact. And I think we did a big disservice. We had a big disservice to each other in the sense that we went in different directions. We were like, all right, well, we're competitors now. So I'm going to go this way, you go that way. And at the time, what we should have done has just stayed together at that time. And there was this sort of false narrative that like the Voltaggio brothers, we were sort of like still competing after that. And I think that was because of that. And then only in the past 10 years, I guess, because Top Chef was almost 15 years ago, I guess, at this point. After Inc., and we'll get to that, I'm sure, my restaurant in LA, Brian and I really sort of dug our heels and like, we should be partners. Like we can help each other. We trust each other. This is what it should be. We respect each other. And to this day, like I'll say it again, Brian's a better cook than I am.
I always loved when you guys are together. You know that. We've always had fun apart. All of us, all three of us, right? But when the three of us were all together, there's a compliment that you guys have for each other, that you guys bring out the best in each other. And I hope you realize that.
Thank you for saying that. And I think it took us a really long time. And I think that was, as much as television and Top Chef helped us, it really set us back a lot of years. I think the opportunity that we probably would have had to work together faster was maybe compromised because of this narrative that we were rivals, this sibling rivalry. It's so much so that we started to believe it. And I think that was, kind of sucked. It kind of sucked because it's my literal family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting.
But he's my best friend today and my business partner, and we do everything together.
I mean, you guys, you truly bring the best out of each other. And I think it's really, I've seen it many, many times, not only in the kitchen, but on the bike, on just in public settings. You guys bring the best out of each other, and it's awesome.
Because I think we're different enough, but one thing that we share is that work ethic. And I think, after Top Chef, getting the opportunity to then, what I had to do and needed to do was disappear and go focus on cooking because I was so paranoid. Because still at that time, we looked at people on that show as like, oh, whatever, those guys on TV, like those people on TV. And so I went to Pasadena to go back to being like what I was in Naples, a fine dining restaurant chef in a hotel. This is like where my comfort zone was, And so I ended up, leaving Jose and leaving the bazaar because I had seen the impact that it had for Marcel on the restaurant and sort of how recognizable he was as the sous chef at the bazaar. I could only imagine like now if I'm the chef of the bazaar and I just won Top Chef, I didn't want to be in that situation in Jose's restaurant because I didn't think it was respectful to him. So I respectfully left and went to the Langham Hotel in Pasadena to be a fine dining chef of one room where I would be responsible for everything from bread through dessert. And it was another 1-star Michelin restaurant. So now I got to put my head down and really start to create this repertoire of what would then become, hopefully one day, my own restaurant. And so I started cooking there as if I was writing every recipe to build my future from. And it worked because there I got a phone call one day and there was somebody who had a restaurant space in LA that was willing to invest in me to open a restaurant. And that's how Inc. came about. The name behind that has nothing to do with this. What was funny about that was I never knew about having lawyers and all that kind of stuff. And the lawyer that I had called me and was like, okay, we got to set up your S corporation or whatever your Inc. is. And I'm like, Inc. What kind of Inc.? I don't know. What is that? The name of the restaurant? Is that? And she's like, no, this is just your company. And I'm like, in Inc. Inc. I'm like, Inc. INK period, INC period. Like anything in Inc. should be permanent. And I want my company to be permanent. And then I'm like, wait, maybe I'll name the restaurant that too. So then I did MV Inc. as my company, and then I did Inc. as the restaurant, and everyone was like, oh, this tattooed chef, like opening a tattoo restaurant, like whatever. It was like everything was happening so fast that I was like, I had no bandwidth to like, all I wanted to do was like open my own first restaurant and not fuck it up. Like all the other shit was. And what was weird about that was I got a lot of really mixed reviews. And I think television, again, had something to do with that because I had to be better than anything else to get like positive reviews because they would come in at the time wanting to like tear me apart. I mean, I remember Irene Verbelia had given me 4 stars out of 4 stars at the bazaar and then wrote me just a horrible review at Inc. But then at the same time, GQ gave me Best New Restaurant and Food and Wine gave me Best New Chef. So now I'm like confused. I'm like, well, which person's right? Like, what am I supposed to listen to? And Irene wrote this review about me that said like, Michael Voltaggio stands up like a carnival barker and the women line up in drones to go meet this. Like nothing about the food really that I was making, but more about me and the perception of who I was, which had nothing to do with who I was. And then you look at people like Jonathan Gold, who at the time was now like being the sort of, I don't want to say rebellious writer, but giving recognition to people. He was writing about the street. Like he was like going out and listening and experiencing, and like anything that he did that he felt or he experienced had an impact on him, he wrote about and celebrated. And Jonathan was very gracious to me at the time, and being able to cook for him. And like, I even had a day where I got to hang out with him all day in a residential kitchen and just cook one dish. I took like 4 hours to make one dish, and he just hung out and we talked all day. And like, so Inc. was really a mind fuck for me because I was getting great recognition and like nationally and getting horrible recognition locally. And so I didn't know if I was doing the right thing or not.
It's interesting. It becomes a situation, and it's common, right? You are known on the national scale and the local scale. To me, it's that world where locally they want to keep you down because that's where you came from, and now they think you're too big for your britches, so they're going to hold you by your. What is that old saying about? You should know this one. It's from Maryland, right? When one crab tries to get out of the pot, all the other ones pull it down to die, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And they want you to have success on their terms because they built you in their mind, but you built yourself. And that put down, and I hated Inc. I mean, I hated Inc. I think like 2 weeks
A
after you
lot.
opened.
Yeah, a couple times too.
Literally 2 weeks after you opened. And then we came back down more times. And it was always delicious. And it was always thoughtful. And I think I remember when you won Best New Chef. I remember all the accolades that were coming out. And they were well deserved because you were cooking you. And I think everybody has an opinion, right? The old saying, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. I think most people have two because most people just talk shit, right? And don't know how to be
Well, but what was
positive.
funny about that time period, though, and on that note, was that, to what you said earlier, no one really knew how hard I had worked. I mean, I worked for Larry Forgione in New York in 1998, 99. Like, my resume, like, had been established. What was interesting was that most people didn't know who I was except for being that guy from Top Chef. So, and this was at a time where like that was kind of a negative sort of thing. It was like, well, can't be a TV chef and a serious chef at the same time. And I always thought there was an opportunity to bridge that gap. I mean, you look at it like Emerald did it, Jacques Pepin, like all these amazing, incredible chefs that, Julia, her own way, did that. And Martha Stewart, even. Like, you look at like these people that were committed to this industry, but then were able to use their ability to tell a story to make the industry bigger. And so for me, it was less about being famous and more about opportunity, because I also knew how much money a restaurant could make now at that. Like I knew what our ceiling was. And I knew that I wanted to do something more. And I think, I don't know, I really thought I could bridge that gap between chefs and chefs that play chefs on TV. And I just thought like that I would be everything that I was before Top Chef, after Top Chef, plus Top Chef. And what I became was just the guy from Top Chef. And that was a really tough time because I didn't know, my restaurant career at the time was like sort of now on a roller coaster ride. I wasn't necessarily wanting to be a TV chef at the time. I wasn't doing much more after Top Chef on television. And so I didn't know where to go with my career. And it was really a dark sort of time for me. I mean, you saw, we don't have to get into the nitty gritty of what that looked like, but I was kind of a mess, man. Like, and I couldn't figure out how to feel happy.
It's hard because there's a perception of who you are and then there's a reality of who you are. And, I feel fortunate enough that I've always known the real Michael. And you confided in me a lot and you talked to me and would reach out a lot about steps and thoughts and just to kind of unload, which I really feel grateful that I was that person that you could feel comfortable to ask or to unload on, because.
But our industry was like that back then too. We were still rooting for each other back then a little bit. And I think
we
now
always had each other's back. We always looked out for each other because high tides raise all ships, right?
Well said.
And that has been forgotten, right? I could call you and say, Michael, I'm struggling with this thing. Why is this not working? And you would explain it to me. And you would call me about curing or, something weird I was working on with funny parts or whatever. And we wanted.
But more importantly, the conversation, like hey, I'm not doing well right now. You know what I mean? Like, and now it just feels like if somebody is doing well, it's kind of like people are just like, let's just cut their legs out. You know what I mean? It's like we're not rooting for each other anymore. Right. I'm certainly trying to for everyone that I talk to, and even people that I idolize that, much like getting to meet you for the first time, or Jose or Charlie, or the list goes on and on. I mean, like Danielle Ballou has always been like this gentleman every time I've gotten to meet him, and he's an icon. Like, he's always been so hospitable and nice. But then there's some of my heroes that I meet and they're not so nice. And I'm just like, why, like, what grudge do you have? Like, I'm admiring these people. Like, I don't want anything from them. I just want to know them because they're a hero in our industry. At least the perception of them is that. And then you meet them and they're just like, some of them are not nice people. And you're just like, well, how do you work in the hospitality industry and genuinely make money off of taking care of people? But like, so you were almost put off by the fact that I wanted to meet you and I was like wasting your time. And there's a lot of chefs that I've had that interaction with. And I think it's kind of disgusting because what I do is any of these young cooks, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm something big, but like, I take the time to like, if somebody DMs me or walks up to me or talks to me or says something to me, like, I'm appreciative of the fact that you recognized me in that way, not like you're bothering me. And I think that there's a lot of, unfortunately, very famous chefs in the world that just don't want to be bothered.
Yeah. I mean,
or they're too cool to talk to you. Like, they think if they speak to you or interact with you, that it's going to lower their respect or their credit, or like, then they're associated with that. Again, that guy from Top Chef. It's like, why?
It's ridiculous. I mean,
like,
we as a whole put ourselves out there in the world, not only with everything we put on the plate, but some of us in this industry have chosen to put ourselves on television, to have open kitchens. You're visible, and people are going to come up to you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to acknowledge that who you are, whether it be in an airport, at a farmer's market. They're going to want to see you in your restaurant. We put ourselves in that position, so we have to be hospitable and not forget that this is the path we've chosen. And the moment you don't recognize that, the moment you think that they're not worth it, then you've lost the whole concept of what hospitality is, because you're there to make them smile. You're there to give taste memories and make people happy. And for them, that moment of joy might be just coming up and saying hello, right?
I
That's a
still
big
have
step.
that. Like I've been disappointed recently meeting somebody that I've looked up to for a long time and just had that interaction. And I don't think I could ever be that way. But then after all that, so like, then I got to, Voltaggio Brothers Steakhouse with my brother,
Yeah.
Volcania with my brother, Volt Burger with my brother. We did a stint in Vegas together, retro at Mandalay Bay with my brother. So my brother and I we're opening up another project sort of together in our hometown in a couple weeks in Frederick, Maryland. And so I find that satisfaction that I'm looking for in everything that I get to do. Going back to that time right after Top Chef where we should have done a lot together, we're now getting to do that. But the other stuff that's happening in my career, the television stuff, happened really because when I did Iron Chef and I competed against Bobby, and I really got to understand how hard this dude like worked and like how much of a cook he was. And then after that, that was when we met. He started to come and eat at Inc., the restaurant that I opened in LA, and support that. And to me, I'm like, okay, well, here's a chef's chef. Like, here's somebody who doesn't have to give a shit about me, doesn't have to come eat at my restaurant. But when he'd come to LA, like he would come eat in my restaurant. Like there was a night that I remember Bobby was sitting on one corner of the dining room and Gordon Ramsay and David Beckham were sitting on the other side of it. And I'm looking out from the past because I'm plating all the food and I'm like, holy shit, holy shit. Gordon Ramsay's sitting right there with David Beckham. Bobby Flay's sitting right there. And they're eating in my restaurant. Like, this is incredible. But what I got to do from there with Bobby was build enough of a relationship where it was very much like, and still is to this day, like, that's my chef. Like, Bobby became a mentor to me, and I got to sort of interact with him as much as I would Jose Andres or Charlie Palmer or the chefs that I had worked under, Arno. Like, again, it's never that personal, but it's a mutual respect and support that I feel like Bobby genuinely showed interest in helping me sort of navigate this next chapter of my career, which is where we are today. And I think just seeing what he did, because he was operating restaurants in New York, like he was opening restaurants around the country and in some cases around the world. He's writing books and he was doing all this television. If you look at how much he competes, like the amount of information that he has and continues to sort of display didn't just come from nowhere. Like he had to work to get that information. And by the way, learning how to lose and be gracious about having the opportunity or grateful and not being bitter and mad about it was something that I learned from him as well. It was like, this is another opportunity to learn another skill set. And TV to me became very similar to cooking, where I wanted to become good at it because the people watching it were our guests. And I have a responsibility to, if I'm doing this, then I owe them the best experience that I can provide. So I need to learn how to get good at this too.
So now you have these restaurants with your brother. You're in the process of doing another one. You just launched your own tequila.
Shameless plug.
Shameless
Marcado
plug.
28. I'll send you some.
I think it's really, you've ridden a wave, and every wave crests and every wave crashes and then they recrest again, right? And you're now actually on the wave instead of getting barrel rolled, and you're enjoying the hard work that you've put in to be here. And I think this is really important because it didn't happen overnight. And you've had fits and spurts and failures and successes. And I think that's part of the growth pattern that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. Most people enter into a career and after 25, they get a pension and they retire. Like, we don't have that. That's not as a trade, that's not something that, unless we work for one company for that entire duration.
Which, as you know, never happens.
Not many people do that. So yeah, I think that, as painful as the lows are, they're motivating to search for the high. They motivate you to search for the highs, because I never want to feel that bad. And I don't take for granted ever getting to feel that good. And so everyone's always got their quotes on success, and mine is sort of enjoying the view from the climb. It's like I'm really happy when I know that I have this opportunity to like work towards something. So I think still setting your eyes on the prize, much like I wanted Best New Chef back in the day, and I wanted to earn a Michelin star, and I wanted to earn all these things, like I wanted to win these accolades. They were only important up until I achieved them. And then they sort of weren't that important after the fact, because I needed to get up and work for something else after that. And so now I think what I'm working now is, how to sort of connect all these dots, all the cooking that I've done, all the television that I've done, these little side projects like the tequila and the things like that, the things that have sort of, I'm figuring out now how to package it all together and now share it with as many people as I can. And I think that that's what's so unique about all the different opportunities that I have, is that I get to serve more people. And I think that that's what's the most fulfilling thing for me, is getting to connect with people and learn still. Like this tequila project wasn't about like, oh, this brand didn't come to me and like, hey, we want to bring you on. Like, it was more like, hey, can I learn how to make tequila? Can I go down to Mexico? Can I spend time with the family? Can we do this project together and do something authentic, where when we do tell this story, it's personal to us? And it's another one of those experiences that I've had, and I'm very sort of blessed and fortunate to have gotten to have this experience with them. And by the way, there's this bottle of tequila now, or these bottles of tequila. And I think that, I don't know what the future is, but I know that I'm not 30, and I know that I don't have the energy that I had back then, but I have the same work ethic, and I have the same sort of goal to share myself, in that way with as many people as I possibly can. And I genuinely, I hope that I don't meet any more of my heroes and they're like embarrassed to shake my hand or something. You know what I mean? It's like,
I have, one of the things I think is really, have you enjoyed the moments as they've come? Have you enjoyed those successes? Or do you just push them aside once you get them and go on to the next thing? Because I think that's really an important thing that I think, and you know this, and Tatiana, and she says it, enjoy the moment when it's there. Don't just do it and then go to the next thing. And I know you have that same thing is said to you, enjoy that when it's there.
It's hard because I feel like, we live in a day where every success or every cool thing that you get to do, somebody's going to criticize you for it. And so it's sort of, it's hard. Yes. In theory, yes, I'm great. The fact that I'm grateful for the opportunities allows me to enjoy them. The fact that I'm still insecure about what comes with that haunts me a little bit. But I also know that I put myself out there. I signed up for it. So I'm a big boy now. And what I've stopped doing was allow myself to believe the things that people say about me. You know what I mean? It's like, if that's your opinion on me, cool. But again, there's a lot of other people that really do know me and understand how much passion and love and positivity and what I hope to bring to any, anything that I get to be a part of, how much I care about everyone that's there and how much I want all of them to have a great experience, whether it's my guests, the people working with us, the people watching the shows. Everyone said, oh, you're too serious when you're cooking in these competitions and stuff. So again, I'm trying to figure out, because I am enjoying myself very much, but it doesn't look like it because I'm head down like this.
Because you're
but
focused
I'm cooking
on your craft. That's like
I
saying
want to
to a
win.
doctor,
I want to win every time. I want to
Of course.
win. I promise you guys that.
That's like saying to a doctor, you know what? You look way too focused during surgery.
Yeah.
Right? That's your surgery. You are performing food surgery. That is your form of competition, and it's just like being a doctor. When their head's in it, they're in the game and they're hyper focused on what they're doing because they don't want to make mistakes, right? Food has that same level of moment. You have 3 seconds when it's in the pan too long, or 3 seconds with, the sauce will break. All of those things are the same. And when someone says you got to be more jovial when you're doing it, well, sometimes you can't be because you're hyper focused.
Well, also looking at the top of my head on television it's not interesting. It's not compelling.
Of course not. But I think that's the thing. I mean, that's why I keep saying I have a face for radio.
I have a face for radio. Here we are doing a video podcast. We could have just done this on the phone, Chef.
I know. But I think that's really, it's really interesting that it's like people always want this as much as they love the competition. They want it to be as pretty and jovial and smiley as possible, even though it's a competition.
But again, I think things like Food Network and even Top Chef during its time and still going, obviously, what it did was it grew the curiosity, and
Yeah, for sure.
it made every chef, whether they wanted to be in the media or not, today they have to, and you have no choice. So I feel like it sort of grew our audience in the restaurants too, not just on television, but people come in with a more sort of sophisticated idea of what it is they're looking for in a dining experience. And I think it's raised our responsibility to provide that to an even higher level. And I think that that's interesting. Like, as much as I just said earlier, like a lot of us are cooking food with similar flavor profiles and stuff, we also now have a bigger expectation to deliver because our guests they know more. They want to know where the ingredients come from. They can tell if they can see through the bullshit where you used to be able to like, oh, they don't really know what this is. Like, everyone's sort of brought up to speed now on what's current and what they should expect. But I mean, for me, it's just, it's funny because I meet a lot of people and they'll say things to me like, wow, you're nice. Like, you're a good guy. Like, you're a nice guy. And like, I'm so surprised that you are. And I would say that my goal currently is to continue to have people say that to me, because I like the fact that I'm meeting a lot more people now, and they get to know who I am as secure, mature, stable husband, father, restaurateur, television talent, or whatever that you want to say, but like, want to have a positive impact on people in any interaction that I have, because I feel very lucky to be living the life that I'm living right now, for my family, for my professional career, for everything. Like, back when, my restaurants, when we were talking about what was happening in my mid 30s, it was dark. I was not a happy person, and I didn't feel happy, and I didn't feel like I was going to get through that at that time. And I did. And I can say this, that it was worth it. It was worth the hard work. It was worth all the criticism. It was worth all the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Because to get to feel how I feel now is incredible. And I think that message behind that is it's possible for anyone. Like, no matter what curveball comes, or whoever tries to bring you down, or whoever doesn't agree with what you're doing, it doesn't matter, because there's a group of people that do. And I think that as long as you continue to take care of them, hopefully it becomes contagious, and we can all just take care of each other a little bit better. I don't know. I was in a bad spot. You saw me back then. Like,
Yeah,
I wasn't okay. And I am okay now. So now whatever people say about, like, whatever, it's fine. If you don't like me, don't like me, but I'll like you back even if you don't like me.
I want to bring up a show that you did, Michael, that I think was, for me, I loved it. And I wish it was still there. And I think you know exactly where I'm going. And you bridged gaps.
Breaking Borders.
I was blown away by this because, one, you took a lot of fucking chances. And I'm not talking chances making the show. I'm talking physical chances in being the places you were. Yeah. These places where you were put in between two cultures pretty much every time that hated each other. And you brought them food to try to bridge that gap. And I was blown away by your thought and your care in doing this, because this is a touchy subject for all these places you went. And me personally, I think this is more relevant now than ever. I think this show is really, really special. And I want you to talk a little bit about that, because it was fucking incredible. I mean, the places you went, the people you met, I was just...
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because it was probably one of the most life-changing moments of my entire life. I mean, Breaking Borders was a show on Travel Channel. I think it's on Amazon available now if people want to rewatch it or whatever. But I went to conflict zones around the world. So I went to Egypt, Israel, Sri Lanka, Palestine, Cambodia, Sarajevo, Rwanda, Northern Ireland, Cyprus, Kashmir, the Mexican-American border, Cuba, and I went to all these places, and basically the format of the show was we would get people together. We would interview people separately. Mariana Van Zeller, who's crushing it right now in the journalism space, we would interview people separately from opposing sides of a conflict, and then bring them all together around a dinner table, and I would cook a meal, and then we'd facilitate a conversation about why they have conflict with each other and how that conflict affects real people in real, sort of real time. And it was interesting because I would go there and I could have cooked anything I wanted, but what I wanted to do was, again, my selfish side of me wanted to learn as much as I could, but then as being a respectful sort of person, I wanted to go to these places and show them like that in a few days, if I could sort of look at what they do with food and then show them a slightly different version of that, maybe we could all together look at a slightly different way how we communicate with each other, interact with each other. And so like anything, you could break tradition a little bit to sort of satisfy the opportunity or the moment. And so I would learn their cuisine as much as I could in 2 or 3 days, talk to them as much as I could, and then try and put all those experiences back together in one meal. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it was scary. You know, some places guns were pulled out and passports were taken, and you know, things were a little sketchy at times, but it was all worth it because I got to have a sort of global perspective on a lot of things that I didn't I've never been exposed to. And so for me, it was, again, back to like what I was saying earlier about just extending hospitality, and no matter what situation you're in, trying to figure out how to make everyone happy and like enjoy themselves together around a meal. Talk about a challenging way to do that. I mean, and we did it in pretty much every episode. We were able to sort of get everyone to shake hands, hug, eat some food together. And I think we could use a little bit more of that right now too.
Yes, we can. We can. That's why I brought this up, because I think it was so powerful at the time, but it's more powerful now than ever. And I really was really blown away by it. I was really impressed. So I want to kind of, you know, you're doing Triple Threat, you're doing Beat Bobby Flay, you know, you're bringing a lot of people to Bobby to compete against him and beat Bobby Flay, and then you're on Triple Threat. I mean, what is that like now? And what is that balance like for you between the restaurants that you're doing with your brother, the upcoming opening of a new one, as well as managing the time with family? You know, that's a lot, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the number one answer to that is having Brian. I mean, the fact that like, you know, we can be in two places at once makes it a bit easier. Brian's actually got some stuff that he's doing in television as well that will come out sort of in good time. So we cover each other's asses a little bit. And so for that part, like Triple Threat, you know, when I go shoot that for a few weeks at a time, you know, Brian's obviously making sure that everything's happening in the restaurants, but also we can still you could still FaceTime the restaurant. You can FaceTime the chef. Like there's times where we're cooking dishes together and Brian's on the phone, and like our chef Nate, who's in Mammoth, is on his FaceTime and me, and we're like making a dish together, but from 3 different places, because the work still has to get done. But also a lot of our business is broken up into seasons, right? Like Live Nation with Volt Burger there's a lot of summer activity with that. Voltaggio, which is in the ski resort in Mammoth Mountain, there's a lot of winter activity. Voltaggio Brothers Steakhouse, which is turning about 8 years old now this year. You know, that's a sort of year-round beast, but Brian lives close enough to where he can get there pretty fast, and then I'll come. But like even when we change the menus there, Brian and I will work on all this food, and then if like he's closer and he can roll in and implement it, because we still do that. We still implement all the dishes and stuff in the restaurants. We can still do that without having to physically be there in the same place at the same time. We're still doing the work. Like I'll make a dish in LA. We'll talk about it. Brian will finish it and go take it to the restaurant. But I'm flying to DC tomorrow to go to the steakhouse to cook tomorrow night. So, and with this new project, you know, this is primarily Brian's project, but I want to help him with it. Like I want to be a part of this new hotel because it is in our hometown, and like Volt was his spot, and then Thatcher and Rye for so many years that was his. But now I think there's an opportunity here to do something even bigger for our hometown of Frederick, Maryland, where, you know, they can sort of claim both of us a little bit. And I think that I left a long time ago and I just came to LA by myself with like $1,000 in my pocket. And now 17 years later, I'm going back to my hometown to help Brian open up something that has, I think, been a dream of his for a long time. So how do I find the balance? I just keep trying really hard, you know, and I don't do a lot of like after work. You're not going to see me out. Like I'm not going to get off work and go to a bar till 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning anymore. I'm not going to do, you know, there is time in the day if you eliminate the times where you weren't necessarily being your most productive self. And so what I've done for myself is eliminated all of that.
Smart. So perception versus reality, social media versus real life. What is your thought on that and how it affects the rest of the world that we live in?
I think it is that, you know, I think you just said it, perception versus real life. I think a lot of people because there's a place for both, right? Like, so that's like classifying social media is like classifying food. We were talking earlier about like casual food and street food and fine dining food and ethnic food and all the different things and how they all have their own value. Like, I think social media is the same thing. Like whatever you're consuming for yourself is important to you. It might not necessarily be important to somebody else, but also if you don't like the information that somebody is serving you, don't follow it. Like it's pretty simple. I do feel like the work that it takes to become a really successful chef with the accolades and everything to support it, the need to go out and do it the way we did it, it has gone away a little bit because you can get faster recognition and more of an audience without anyone ever tasting one dish that you've ever made. And I think it's interesting to me.
It's different.
Because now it's like it's different, but also like the perception of what it is to become a chef is very different too. It's like you said earlier, it's like they get the sleeve of tattoos, you know, the bedazzled chef jackets and all the stuff. And it's like, I mean, I think it's cool. Like I follow, a lot of like social media chefs and influencers or whatever personalities I'll say, because it's no different than to me tuning into a TV show where you saw like Julia. Like imagine Julia today on social media, on TikTok or Instagram, just doing what she did back then. I mean, she today be equally, if not way more iconic than she already was.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And you don't need to go to a restaurant like to eat her food. It was like you just wanted to absorb her energy. And I think there's a lot of people, if you can look at some of these people that are doing that, then again, they're doing a service for everyone. They're providing something because we're also in the business of emotion. And I think a lot of the social media stuff has an opportunity to allow people to live outside of their means a little bit. Like if you can't necessarily afford to go have one of these experiences somewhere or have this cooked for you, at least you get to feel like they're cooking it for you in that moment. And I think that's kind of cool.
What has been your worst mistake? You want to pick culinarily, you can do business, whatever you choose, but that's on you.
I think taking my family for granted, I would say my worst mistake was thinking that work was more important than, I have 2 daughters that I had when I was super young. My biggest mistake was justifying my time away as I was doing it for them, because the reality of that was all they wanted was me. And I think that that's something that I really fucked up. But luckily they are empathetic, amazing, intelligent women that like have sort of forgiven me for a lot of that. And so I think, you need to find that balance, you need to figure out how to do both. And I think I just wasn't able to, or maybe I'm making an excuse right now, but yeah, that, cause I see the connection that I have with my daughter now too. And it's interesting that I can learn from that mistake. But now at the same time as I'm building this new bond with my new daughter, I'm also continuing to build that bond with my other 2 daughters as adults. I mean, they're adults and I want everyone to be in each other's life. So yeah, it's on a personal level, like I think like any regret that I would ever have, anything work-wise, I can always go back and fix that. But I'll never get that time back with them. And then that was.
You're not alone, dude. You're not alone. I get it 100%. Same boat. Best meal that what's that best meal moment for you?
Oof. Like most memorable or
whatever.
It's hard because I have a lot of different bests for different reasons.
Yeah. I think they're all really personal, right? Like there's epiphany moments, there's delicious moments, there's those, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually here moments. There's all those.
I will say when I did my stage at the French Laundry on the last day that I was there, Thomas like told me to take my apron off, and I don't even know if he knows who I am today. I don't, whatever. To me, like he's not one of those people that I would say was earlier like mean to me when I got to meet him. Like he's awesome. Like, at the end of my stage, he was like, Michael, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, give me your apron. And I handed it to him and he folded it and he escorted me into his office, which was a glass wall overlooking the pass. And the pass is where the food comes from, as you know. There was a charger plate and a glass of champagne and some silverware. And I got to sit at his desk and have my only meal that I've ever had in that restaurant, which is funny that I've never gone back there because that was one of the most incredible things that had ever happened to me in my life. And that probably happens to every stage that goes there. And it wasn't special to me, but like it had that much of an impact on me that I will never forget it. Like to me, that was like, again, a professional courtesy. Thomas is a chef, like whether he's helping Bocuse d'Or or building these amazing restaurants or the plethora of people, talent that have come through any one of his restaurants, the level of excellence, but the commitment to hospitality, again, was something that that to me is a goal that I'll never achieve the way that he's been able to do it, but it's certainly something to continue to aspire for. And I think that meal was that for me.
What would you change, right? In your trajectory of your career, would you change anything to be where you are today? Or would you just have let it stay as
I
is?
think what the number one thing I would have changed is probably I would have surrounded myself with more people that were equally committed to their lane of this industry that I was, so that I could so I would only focus on the cooking part because I really had to learn, like I thought I had to do everything, which was, it was incredible. Like I know how to do everything now. Like I can open a restaurant and everything in between from service to whatever, all of it. But I feel like I would have had a better time if I would have just been able to have a good core group of people that were in it with me for the whole trajectory of it. Because now I feel like I'm still starting over every year. And that part's kind of tough when it just, as opposed to like this team that absorbs all this business and continues to grow together. For me, it feels like I didn't surround myself with a big enough infrastructure to be able to like, I mean, we have it now, but I think from the time from then till now, I wish I would have learned that that part was important back then because we could have been a lot more productive, I think. And now we are, you know, having those people with us and trying to maintain and keep and nurture the people from within and like build something together. I guess what I'm saying too, the more important part of that is making the brands of the restaurants more important and relevant and quote famous than like I am. Like I would rather people talk about Voltaggio Brothers Steakhouse or Volcania or Y Oak, which is opening soon, or Volt Burger, which I know a lot of these have our name in it, but not because they're ours, but because they're that good. And I think that that's the part that I'm really trying to focus on right now. Is like I want the things that we create to have a bigger legacy than us. And I think that that's something that is a priority of mine right now.
Is there anything you choose not to eat or won't eat?
I don't love monkfish liver. And I know saying that to you is probably,
I mean, everybody
but I
does.
eat funky stuff.
Yeah.
But that particular ingredient to me has always been just a little too much.
It is definitely funky. It's
Have
definitely
you,
funky.
I've eaten, you had the fried cod sperm. That's also a fun one.
Yeah. Yep. Mentaiko.
Yeah. That
Yep.
one was, I had it with, I always thought somebody should
No,
do that with
shorako. Excuse me. Shorako. Shorako.
yeah. Somebody should do that with caviar on top of it and call it an intercourse.
That's good. I mean, there's so many things like that that I think people are hesitant to try, you know, but
I'll still eat monkfish liver. Like I still give it a shot. In fact, Torreshin, which is a yakitori restaurant in New York, they served it to me. I think it was them once, and I really enjoyed it. Or maybe it was carp roe there. I don't know.
we
Like
did.
big fish roe or liver is tough for me.
It can be very powerful. We used to do a terrine of foie gras and monkfish liver together.
I can see that being
It, it,
delicious. But you
it
also did that tuna bone marrow, which to me is still one of the craziest things I've ever eaten.
that was a
Or
long
those
time ago.
pork skin noodles. Could you just tell me right now how you make those?
The pork skin, I can't take credit for that. That was a Joe Beef thing, man. Those guys,
But how do you make that?
the pork
Let's
skin
give the
noodles,
people some information.
it's brine the skin, you boil it, and you cut it in sheets and then you boil it, right? Until it's super tender. Then you chill it, scrape it, and then you just roll it through the pasta cutter. You literally put it on the
You actually rolled that through the pasta cutter?
that's how I cut it. So like you had a pasta
Huh.
cutter, and then
Yeah.
I mean you could cut it by hand, but by the end of it you're toast if you need enough for service. But you can
Yeah.
literally put it through the
Like the
fettuccine.
fettuccine die
Yeah, on
or
the machine.
cutter?
The cutter on the machine. That was it.
That was that dish, and I've only had it when you made it for me, was one of the craziest. Again, that was like one of those, you know, when you eat a dish and you're like, how did they do that? That was one of those things still.
That's the thing that I had when I was at Joe Beef. So Fred and Dave, I had gone to Joe Beef and they dropped this down in front of me and they were like, "So you're an Italian chef and I hear you're a butcher?" Boom, they dropped this plate in front of me and I felt so dumb. It was probably
But
the
isn't it
dumbest.
nice that they probably thought it was cool?
They totally got me. They totally got me like thinking and brainstorming and like, how did I not understand this? And it's gluten-free
Yeah.
noodles, dude. It's gluten-free noodles. It hit all those categories, right? Well, if you could eat with anyone, who would it be? Sit down and have a meal with someone.
I mean, I guess I would probably say like, I don't know, that's a tough thing to answer. Are they alive still
It
or
doesn't matter. It can be alive. It can be gone. It could be.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I guess it, I mean, as crazy as this may or may not sound to a lot of people, I guess it would be with whatever version of God is God, because I think we're all asking what all this is about these days. You know, I don't know. I think being able to just, I don't know, like what's out there. You know what I mean? Like what's next? What's where do we all go from here? And I
What's at
think
the end of the light,
you know,
right?
I'm referring specifically to like, yeah, well, we're not on this planet anymore. I guess it would be that. Like it is the number one question, you know. And so I'd like to be able to ask that to whoever could answer that because I'm getting older now and slightly more curious because, you know, by math, I'm halfway there, but by reality, it could be tomorrow. Like,
We're not going to think
and
about that.
I want to prepare for it, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I get it. What has been your biggest culinary flop? So, and I want to preface this. We talked about Art Culinaire. You know exactly where I'm going with this. You remember that section of the magazine, Food Arts, excuse me, Food
Yeah.
Arts, and it was called, you know, What Do They Know? Remember that section? And we would
Mm-hmm.
look forward to that. It's like, this dish was amazing, but it was, the guest didn't enjoy it. I always thought that that was pretty an incredible, smart section of Food Arts because it really kind of gave you an inkling into people's minds and where they were going. And it was always awesome for people to admit what didn't work. It's really important, I think, know those things.
Yeah. My biggest flop. I mean, I don't know, because I feel like every time I get to have them, I look at it as an opportunity to like course correct a little bit. So I
Of
don't
course.
necessarily, I mean, I used to, like I said, I used to get really super down on myself. I would say, is it a dish or would you say you're asking me this based on one
Like a
dish?
dish. Yeah, like that dish that you just you thought it was right on and it just didn't work. Because we've all had those.
I would probably say it was probably the most controversial dish was the smoked apple, the burnt applewood sauvignon with the sort of deconstructed apple pie that we did at Ink because some people were like, that doesn't taste like apple pie at all. And it wasn't like meant to. It was basically all the components of apple pie. And then they were like, well, the ice cream tastes like burnt wood. And I was like, thank you. Like, that's what I was trying to do. And the whole idea, like that dish, that dish was like our country. It was like split right down the middle. Like it was like either people loved it,
Yeah.
like whatever. There was two sides to that dish. They really loved it or they didn't love it. And there was no like in between. And I think that dish, I loved making it because I thought, for me at the time, I was the kind of the pastry chef because when you open your first restaurant, you don't necessarily have a budget for a pastry chef that is going to be at the level that you hope that restaurant can achieve. And so I had to do it in the beginning. And so I really tried really hard to make some interesting, unique desserts that felt like they belonged in the same restaurant. And so I feel like what was cool about it was I got a lot of praise for the desserts too, because I feel like I did more time and research on it because I wasn't good at it. And so it forced me to like really follow like recipes and stuff. I remember once I ate Tres Leches at John and Vinny or at Animal, and I asked John Shook one day. I was like, "Damn, that Tres Leches is the best Tres Leches I've ever had. Like, where did you learn how to make that?" And he's like, "Dude, I just like looked up Tres Leches and started making every single recipe until one of them tasted that good." And he's like, "That became the recipe for the Animal Tres Leches." And I was like, "Huh."
What's your favorite cookbook?
I would say there's a couple. The first like 128 pages of Escoffier were super important to me in the beginning because it was like the base core recipes. But I think the one that probably had the biggest impact on me ever, I'll say it again, was the French Laundry Cookbook. I think that was I really feel like put the spotlight on this country as like this country was going to be a culinary like it sort of laid the ground. There were other books, but like I think that one was probably the most influential one. That's the one like if I lost it, I went and got another one.
What's your must-have kitchen tool?
Vitamix. I think that I can't do most of my food without a Vitamix blender.
What makes you happy as a chef?
Making other people happy. That's why we do what we do. It's an industry called the hospitality industry.
All right, you ready? Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Espresso or drip?
It's funny because I make Americanos with my espresso machine, so I guess I'm kind
Me
of right
too.
in the middle. Okay.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Oatmeal or yogurt?
Oatmeal if it's savory. I make my oatmeal with like salt, pepper, and cheese, like a cacio e pepe almost.
Bacon or sausage?
A bacon.
Chicken or duck?
Ooh, I say duck.
Beef or pork?
I'm gonna go beef.
Or squab?
I like to cook.
Hot dog, hamburger?
Hamburger. I have
Ket-
hamburger restaurants.
Ketchup or mustard?
Mustard.
Whole grain or Dijon?
Dijon.
French fries or onion rings?
French fries.
Taco, burrito?
Taco.
Pasta, noodles?
Pasta.
Ravioli, dumplings?
Shit.
Raw.
I just contradicted myself.
No, you didn't, because I think this, and I think this is what's really interesting. When I start doing this, somebody's like, well, pasta and noodles are the same thing. No, they're extremely different, right?
Yeah.
Because noodles can be yam noodles, they can be rice noodles. I mean, I think there's very, and the same thing, dumplings has such a large, vast style, right?
Yeah.
Of dumplings, it's just, they're different. Raw oysters or raw clams?
Raw oysters.
Lobster or crab?
Crab. I'm from Maryland, bro.
Sea urchin or caviar?
Caviar.
Meatballs or sausage?
Sausage.
What's your favorite pizza style?
Do I have to answer that? All pizza. I think any pizza is good pizza to me.
Red wine or white wine? Light beer or dark beer? White spirits, dark spirits?
Can we be in the middle on that one?
You can do whatever you want. It's your answer. There you go. There's your answer. Champagne, Prosecco, Cava, or Lambrusco?
Champagne.
Ice cream, soft serve, gelato, sorbet?
Ice cream.
Cup or a cone? Sugar or styrofoam?
Fuck does that mean?
The type of cone.
I'm like, styrofoam for sure.
Isn't it funny that we actually call it a styrofoam cone?
I haven't heard that in 20 years.
Right? It's the one you would get, it comes out of the little box next to your little thing.
I'm going to go get that. I forgot how much and when the ice cream gets in the little crevices of it, and you're like, oh.
It's funny because all I can picture is the little kid with blonde hair holding the big tall ice cream on the thing, right?
That's me.
Right? Chocolate or fruit?
Chocolate.
Bitter or milk?
Bitter.
Honey or maple syrup?
Maple syrup.
Favorite candy?
Sour Patch Kids.
Guilty pleasure?
Sour Patch Kids.
What would your last meal be?
I think it would need to be like a dinner, like a protein, mashed potatoes, and a gravy of sorts, and a vegetable, just like a real dinner, like the kind that meatloaf and mashed potatoes, or roast chicken or fried chicken and mashed, anything, like a complete meal of mashed potatoes, a vegetable, and a protein.
So, Michael, if people want to find you, where's the best way for them to find you on social media?
I don't know how to use TikTok or Facebook, so I'm at Voltaggio on Twitter, Instagram, and I think I'm Voltaggio.
And folks, Michael just released a new tequila. You make sure you go check it out. Michael, where's that available?
You can get it right from the website, Mercado 28. Thank you for that. It's also in ABC liquor stores down in Florida area, but we're just slowly. We want this to get to as many people as we can possibly get it to.
So, folks, if you have the chance or the time, make sure you check out the restaurants. They are delicious. They are fun. This dynamic duo of Brian and Brian's brother, as it says on the screen here, is pretty amazing. I love these guys. They're great. Like I said before, they bring out the best of each other, and I look at Michael as one of the most talented chefs in the country, and also a great friend. So make sure you check out what he's doing, please, folks.
And I mean to you, Chris, like it's amazing to have looked up to you for so many years and have this relationship with you, and just have you be what I envisioned you of being when I got to meet you. And you really are one of those people that tries to be a conduit and keeps sort of, through the cycling and through all the other stuff outside of the kitchen. Thank you for your hospitality.
Oh, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right.
I don't know how to hang up.
So, folks, I'm just going to say this. This episode was brought to you by me, myself. I funded it. So if you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, please reach out, because I'm fucking broke. Thanks for listening to How the Sausage is Made. If you've liked what you've heard today, please make sure to like and subscribe. And don't be afraid to tell your friends about it.